You might have heard the saying, "Do as I do, not as I do as I say, not as I do." I heard that from my dad one time. He had the farm truck that I drove to school wasn't running very well, and my dad had taken it out to town sometime, and I remember him telling me, sitting on the porch, saying, "I think the truck runs pretty well." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, I took it for a drive, and um, I I went fast on the highway home. I went like 90 miles an hour. And I remember looking at my dad thinking, well, if you went 90, I didn't tell him that I had gone far in excess of 90 miles an hour. But he looked at me, realized that he had sort of set the example of going fast in the truck, and he said, "Son, do as I say, not as I do." And I thought to myself quietly, I didn't utter a word, but I thought quietly, you wish. The problem with that statement, do as I say, not as I do, is that's not what people do. And when we talk about organizational cultures and ethics as a part of culture, we can't expect that we make a list of do's and don'ts and then we don't exemplify that list and that people will follow. Social learning is the concept that people learn from example of others. And in particular, they look at people who have higher status than them and people who mark success. So if I look at my manager, who I see as higher than me, who's making more money, who has more power and status, who has greater success than I have had yet, I look at how they got there. And if I see them behaving unethically, if I see them following a code of conduct that's not what's on paper, my tendency is to follow what I see done, not what I hear I'm told to do. So keep that in mind. You really can't have that contradiction in your culture. You can't tell people to do one thing and then you yourself not exemplify it. It's more than not violating the code overtly. You need to exemplify it. Exemplification means I'm a living, great example of this. And that's a high standard to live up to, but as leaders of the organization, we simply have to. All right, thanks, guys.